Keisha. And it's always so wonderful to hear about all the services that's being offered and provided to the community. So hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here and sharing your time with us. So we're here today because of our wonderful partnership with ACCES that allows us to provide these vital learning opportunities. So today's topic is saving for retirement and child education with Kiran Kali, who is an investment and retirement planner. Kiran has been so good to us. I know he just presented about 2 weeks ago at another event of ours. So thank you, Kiran. We really appreciate your support. Okay, so a little about myself so you know who's talking with you today. So as mentioned, my name is Farah Mohammed. I am a digital banking advisor with RBC. I joined RBC in June of 2019 as a client advisor, most of us know as a teller, and I was able to develop my skills from there. Curious, to be able to help clients a little bit more. I was recommended for the banking advisor program. And then from there, I heard about the great work that the newcomer specialist team was doing. And now I found myself as part of the team. So, that's just a little about me. Moving on to what you can expect for the next hour. So we've already heard our welcome from ACCES. We will continue with some introductions from RBC and the newcomer specialist team so you can find out who we are and what we're all about. Right after that, we'll move right into the presentation from Kiran. And of course, we've also set aside some time for a question and answer period for you, and then we will wrap up in the end there in the last 5 minutes. So that is what you can expect for today. So moving on, let's find out about, RBC. So, when you think about an organization, it's important to know their purpose and vision. So this is something that is meant to inspire and motivate you. And RBC's purpose is helping clients thrive and communities prosper. Our vision is to be amongst the world's most trusted and successful financial institutions. But, it's not just about their purpose and vision. Like us, an organization must also have values. So even though we're an organization of 86,000 employees, myself, Felipe, and Ria, we're all guided by the same set of values. It's the RBC values. We put client first, always earn the right to be our client's first choice. We understand our clients' needs, which help build lasting relationships. We show empathy and care and bring the best of RBC by offering the right advice and solutions. Next is collaboration. So we work together by believing and trusting in teamwork. With the collaboration of our partners and, Kiran to prove it here today, we win as the community and win as one RBC. Accountability, we take ownership and responsibility. Diversity and inclusion. RBC embraces diversity, as you can see here. We speak up for inclusion and empower people to grow and achieve more together. And last is integrity. So definitely not least, we hold ourselves to the highest of standards to build trust. So, now I'd like to pass it over to Felipe to introduce himself and our newcomer specialist team.
Thank you so much, Farah. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time and investing in yourself and, taking the time to learn something new or probably, a refresher. And thank you to ACCES for having us here with this great partnership. So my name is Felipe. I'm a banking advisor, a digital banking advisor here for the RBC newcomer specialist team. To speak a little bit about myself, I started with RBC in 2008, where I joined as a part-time client advisor. Also known as a teller at the Kennedy and Ellesmere branch. Through my time with RBC, I've gained access and, I learned a lot more complex transactions, which assisted me in becoming a client advisor expert, and it helped me to move on up and become a central teller. And for those who may not know what a central teller is, they're the individuals that are responsible for balancing the branch at the end of every day. And during that time, I've won multiple quarterly awards within my branch, my regional area, and I'm a banking advisor here for the RBC Newcomer Specialist Team, providing financial literacy for the communities of newcomers as well as students. So I'd like to introduce to you our core team. So on the next slide, you see that this is our core team of newcomer specialists. So it's not about the location, as we can be contacted virtually, and you can reach out to us from basically almost anywhere. And as you can see, the team may be small, but we have our assistant branch manager, which is Nazneen, and the digital advisors, my colleagues, Ria and Farah, as well as myself. But not only that, I'd like for you guys to meet our support team. You know, we have, even though we're like a small group, we have a strong support team throughout the whole GTR, so the Greater Toronto Region. And we range from different departments and branches in our market and neighboring markets. This way, we continue to reach our clients and communities in our virtual setting. The greatest aspect of our team is that we have many different skills and expertise, and we're all brought together as one RBC, where we share the same passion to give back to the communities every opportunity we get. And we're able to do this with our community partners like ACCES, who is a key partner through this incredible journey. So we have enhanced this synergy to our internal partners, communities, and clients for a more holistic approach. We focus on putting together newcomers and clients at the center of everything that we do, and our goal is to be prepared and proactive for our clients at all times. And since the March of 2022, we have taken our branch digitally, where we facilitate all of our events online. So we provide financial literacy, ranging from buying your first home in Canada, getting and building good credit in Canada, saving for retirement, and fraud prevention, just to name a few. So we also provide advice that goes beyond banking and our banking system. Our experts help explore the different fields like HR tips, role discovery, as well as job search. So let's begin with today's workshop covering saving for retirement and child education with Kiran. So I'd like to pass it over now to Kiran to introduce himself, and he will take it off from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Felipe. Appreciate that. I just want to thank Keisha and ACCES for giving us this opportunity to speak to all of you today. And I just want to thank my partners, Farah and Ria, as well, for joining us on this call. They're always fantastic support for me, helping me navigate through this. So not to be alarmed, the person you see on the picture there, that is me. As a newcomer, you'll learn that it's good to have your winter hair and your summer hair. And I'm in summer mode right now. So yeah, feeling lighter, feeling good. So ready to talk about RSPs and RESPs. So I've been with Royal Bank for about 10 years now, been in multiple roles. As a banking advisor, I've worked with small business clients, assisting them grow, entrepreneurs. Been on the credit side as well with lending, but more recently in my current role, I focus primarily on investments and retirement planning. I am a financial planner by designation and do cover all aspects, that is cash flow management, estate planning, tax planning. So any questions any of you may have, we will be providing contact information at the end of the presentation, so feel free to reach out as well if you have some very specific questions. But yeah, we'll get right into the content of today's presentation. So we're here to talk about two specific registered plans, but a registered plan is simply a plan that is offered by the government. They all have different advantages and purposes for why they should be used. So as you can see here, we have our retirement savings plans, tax-free savings accounts, registered education savings plan, and the last is the registered disability savings plan. We're going to be focusing on 1 and 3, which is the RRSP and RESP for retirement and education. So what is an RRSP and how does that help you? For most people who are employed, you receive income and you have payroll deductions. You'll have money that goes towards federal taxes. You'll have money that goes towards the Canada Pension Plan, which is your government pension. You'll also have money deducted towards old age security, which is also to help supplement your retirement lifestyle. If you were to make $40,000 of income and had no RSP contributions, your income would remain at $40,000. Whatever you pay for taxes would stay with the government. However, if you added $5,000 into an RSP, you're effectively reducing that income from $40,000 to $35,000, and that's going to result in some type of a tax refund because now you've paid taxes on $40,000 when really you reduced your income down to $35,000. You know, a lot of people ask that question of, you know, what's an optimal amount I should be putting in, or how much should I be putting in? Or they'll say, I spoke to a friend and the friend told me I should be putting in $5,000 into an RSP. This number is going to vary from individual to individual. Just remember to keep in mind that you need to customize this based on where you are right now in your career trajectory and where you think you'll be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Or if you only have 10 years left for working, what is the best way to kind of utilize accounts like this? So we can get into that a little bit further on our next slide. So you need to kind of look at, what are the individual limits that you have, first of all? What are the benefits that you'll receive by making RSP contributions now and in the long term? And then also, what are the implications of what you'll have to withdraw in future years? There are also additional features and functions that an RSP gives you. For example, if you haven't purchased your first home and you'd like to use the first-time home buyers program, this program allows you to tap into your RSPs without tax implications, and you're able to put that as a down payment towards your first home purchase. Similarly, if you're looking to retrain and get back into education, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever the case is, the lifelong learning program also has that ability to utilize your funds without tax implications. In both instances, you do need to pay it back. So in the case of a home buyer's plan, you would have to pay that back within a 15-year time frame, and with a lifelong learning plan, you'd have to pay that back within 10 years. The limits on an RSP are grown by 18% of your total income from your previous year. So for example, if your income was $50,000 in 2021, your RSP room for 2022 has grown by $9,000, which is 18% on $50,000. I agree with the next slide. Thank you so much. So looking at kind of where will your retirement income come from. So you have multiple sources that you can kind of rely on, and really the best way to control the accounts that you personally hold depend on the accounts that you don't really have much control over. So with Canada Pension Plan, the CPP, or the Quebec Pension Plan if you're in Quebec, OAS is the old age security. These are going to be set amounts that you'll receive. CPP will be determined based on your average income over the number of years you've worked. So more or less, if you worked in this country for about 15 to 20 years, and you've been making the maximum income for CPP threshold, which as of right now is about $57,000 a year, you would be receiving close to your full CPP, which at this moment is roughly about $1,200 to $1,300 a month. That's always changing and increasing. Old age security is roughly about $610 a month. That's the maximum anyone can get. That would be for an individual who's been in this country for their entire life pretty much, or at least until they were 18 to 65. If you've been in, let's say, Canada for 30 years and you are now 65, which is the eligible old age security age, you'll be receiving about 75% of your maximum old age security. 40 years is kind of that key number that you want to hit. 25 years will be about 62%, so on and so forth. Okay. Some companies do offer pensions for you as well. So you could also receive a defined benefit pension or a defined contribution pension. A defined benefit pension says that you're guaranteed a certain amount every month for the rest of your life, from the time that you retire until the time that you pass. There could also be some kind of spousal beneficiary designation where you're able to appoint your spouse in the event that you predecease them. Defined benefit pensions are quite rare. They're mostly offered through government agencies and bigger companies that grandfather those plans in. Most companies that even offer any kind of a pension now use the defined contribution method. A defined contribution pension simply says that I as a company will put some money towards your retirement with a third-party company, and whatever happens with those investments, that's completely your responsibility to manage. So this is where a defined contribution pension would involve more work from the individual to make sure that they're invested properly and getting the proper returns and managing that as time continues. So with these three pensions, that can really determine what your cash flow is going to look like during retirement. And based on any shortfalls, you'll use then your personal savings and RRSPs to supplement any differences. So for example, if it's been determined that I require $40,000 a year to maintain my retirement lifestyle, and I'm receiving $30,000 between OAS, CPP, and my company pension, that means I have a $10,000 shortfall that I have to make up for during retirement. If I retire at 65 and maybe think I'm going to live until I'm 90, that's 25 years. I need to make sure that I accumulate $250,000 for that period in retirement funds. Perfect. So just we'll move on to the RESP components. So when determining how you want to save your money, you want to really look at all of your different goals, short-term, long-term, in between, right? A lot of you might have children that have not entered post-secondary education yet, and you might be kind of wondering, you know, how do I fund all of this? The most important thing I would see to start with, whether it's RSPs or RESPs, is creating a budget that anybody on this call, if you set up an appointment with, can definitely assist you with that in regards to kind of figuring out, you know, what is your cash flow, how much income do you have coming in, and what are your expenses going out. You obviously want to try to meet everything. It might not always be possible, but it's about taking advantage of everything to its optimal amount based on your personal circumstances. So when we look at an RESP, Registered Education Savings Plan, is another account offered by the government, saying that you're able to put money aside towards your children's education, and the government will match you up to 20% of your contributions, up to $2,500 per year per child. Okay? So it's basically free money that you have available that you can take advantage of. All right, we go to the next slide. Thank you. So, so who can set up an RESP? So an RESP can be set up for any child who's a Canadian resident, including your own children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or even family friends. The subscriber of the plan is a person who opens the plan and makes contributions towards it. So anybody could be really a subscriber, but generally we always kind of recommend that a subscriber is also the same person who's the primary caregiver of the child. Logistically, it's just easier that way. So for example, if you're receiving, I don't know what they call it, guys, maybe one of you can jump in. Is it baby bonus or child credit, child tax credit, one of those? So whoever that person is, we generally recommend that that person also be the RESP account holder as well, just so that you're only asking really for one signature when it comes to maintaining any type of an RESP. An RESP is a pretty universal account. Most financial institutions do offer it. Of course, I am paid to tell you that RBC is your brand of choice, and I do believe that. So come see us if you want to set that up. But yeah, RESPs, again, are a government account. You can have more than one RESP. Everything is based on social insurance number. So you can have multiple accounts, but you just have to make sure that you're staying kind of within those limits, being aware of it, because everything rolls up into one social insurance number. So essentially, like I mentioned before, the RESP gains you 20% of your contributions that you put in, up to $2,500 per child per year. That is basically about $500 every year. There's also an additional Canada Learning Bond that, based on income, you can also potentially qualify for. So the potential is about that $600 a year, depending on your situation. If your child is a bit older, let's say, for example, you are eligible, you know, to start putting into an RESP since the child was 2 years old, but your child is now 10, you do have time. You can catch up on years that have missed simply by doubling up your contributions each year. So you could put in up to $5,000 per child, and that will equate to about $1,000 that the government will compensate you in government grants each year. Okay. So for qualification, so any eligible RESP beneficiary under 18 does qualify. Beneficiaries must be residents of Canada, like we mentioned, and also have a social insurance number. The social insurance number, as was previously mentioned in an earlier slide, can be applied for through Service Canada. Okay. The maximum contribution you can make per beneficiary is $50,000 over the lifetime of the plan. So most people don't really kind of get into that kind of amount, so it doesn't really come into concern too often. Really remember to keep in mind that you want to put in the optimal amount to try to squeeze as much as government grants as possible. Okay, so the very last point there mentions that the maximum that you can receive from the government per beneficiary is $7,200. So if you work that out backwards, it basically equates to $36,000 in your own personal contributions. So if you have a child that was just born and you want to spread that 36,000 over 17 years, it works out to about $2,100 per year that you really have to put in, right? Or if you're taking full advantage of the $2,500, right, from the first year they're born, you can essentially stop your contributions when your child is about 14 and a half, because at that point, you now have reached the maximum that the government will give in grants. So there's really no need to save beyond that. You're very free to, continue saving if you want to save more for them, but you can use other accounts like tax receivings accounts and non-registered accounts, just so that your money is more flexible. Okay, so we spoke about the Canada Learning Bond. So for Canada Learning Bond, that would all be based on income filing. When we apply for grants and bonds, we do apply for everything. Those that are eligible to get the Canada Learning Bond would get it based on their total family income. The initial payment is $500, and then everything after that is $100 per year. Sorry about that, I got locked out of my computer. Okay, so sorry, Farah, did we just move on to the next slide?
Did you want to cover some more on the Canada Learning Bond?
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about the last point there. So yeah, the maximum CLB payable per child is $2,000 as mentioned there. So I think that covers it, yeah. Thank you. All right, so we talked about this already. So the maximum lifetime contribution, $50,000 per beneficiary, okay? But there are no annual limits to RESP contributions, but remember, you don't really want to be passing $2,500, or if you're doubling up, more than $5,000, because again, it's about those optimal contributions. So the maximum duration you can contribute to an RESP is for 31 years, and the plan can remain open for a maximum of 35 years, okay? Do you need earned income to contribute? No, okay? Are contributions tax deductible? They are not. So your contributions towards RSPs are tax deductible, not for RESPs, okay? You can also carry forward any unused room, but you should spread that out over many years, right? Before the year end, the beneficiary turns 17. As 17 is that final year in which you can get any kind of grants, and then that would stop after that. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so as far as the investment options for RESP, depending on the financial institution where you hold your RESPs, you have a lot of different options available. Those that want safety and security will generally look to cash, GICs, maybe some money market funds, things that don't really fluctuate and are protecting your initial principal. And if you want to get your money invested into the market, then people either look at, mutual funds, stocks, ETFs. All of these options come with obviously risk and reward. So there's no guarantee. But depending on when you're investing, if you're investing when your child is born, you have really a 17-year investment time frame. So any kind of risk that's to be taken should be done really at the early onset, and then reducing that risk as time continues. There are products available that are target funds. Essentially, they kind of work towards a target date, and they automatically become less aggressive and more conservative. Or you can be very active with the management of your funds and just make sure that you're doing at least an annual or biannual check, so that you're making sure that everything is kind of working for you. So really, potentially, if you can average about 6 to 7% on your investments, you're also getting 20% from the government. That's close to a 30% return on those funds. You just want to be cautious with how you approach that, obviously, because Psychologically, a lot of people don't like to take the same kind of risk with their children's education that they would with their own retirement. So we're more than happy to have that conversation if you are interested in looking at investment options as well. Okay, so there are some principles of investing that are good to apply for all accounts, whether it's RSPs, RESPs, or any other purpose that you're saving for. Remember that the main thing with investing is that time frame is probably one of the most important things. It's really good to establish a goal, understand what you're kind of working towards, and give yourself more time to save and invest. But the key principles of investing are investing early, investing regularly, and diversifying your investments, right? So the earlier you start, the less volatility you'll see over time, right? So in 1 year, as we are going through this year, the markets have been very turbulent, both on the bond and the stock markets. And as a result, a lot of people are seeing significant declines in their portfolio value. But over time, as we have these different events, there will also be years when the market is very good. And you're looking for kind of that average rate of return. In order to do that, you have to start investing early. Investing regularly is very important as well. So kind of determining, first of all, your cash flow, looking at all of your expenses and how you can integrate your savings plans within that budget. So for example, if you say that, you know what, I'm able to put aside $5,000 a year towards my RSPs, I'm able to put aside $2,500 towards my RESPs. It's about taking that total $7,500 and spreading that out over a weekly schedule, bi-weekly schedule, if you get paid every 2 weeks, monthly, whatever it is, some type of a regular plan where you're putting that money into your different goals. And then diversifying your investments. A lot of us have heard that term, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's about making sure you give yourself exposure to different asset classes, different industries, different geographical areas. Don't just invest all your money in Canada. Make sure you have U.S. and global exposure. Don't just put all your money into stocks. Make sure that you have enough bonds in your mix as well so that you have exposure to everything. And really, it has to be in relation to what you're saving for. Put some perspective on how you're going to be investing and what purpose those investments are serving. So withdrawals from an RESP, so how does that work? So RESP withdrawals are made of two components. There's a return of payment. A return of payment are funds that are made up of all of your own personal contributions. And then there's education assistance payments. So education assistance payments are all the growth components, which include government grants and bonds, any investment returns as a result of investing in whatever you put the money into. These amounts all roll into the education assistance payment, which are all taxable amounts. Return of payments are not taxable because they were already dollars that were taxed at some point before they went into the RESP. So the government has been kind enough not to double tax that money. But with the education assistance payments, because this money has been money that's not been taxed yet, when the withdrawal is made, those amounts are taxable under the beneficiaries' names. So the beneficiaries are your children. They're normally 17, 18, 19, 20 at the time of withdrawal. During these years, there's a good chance that they don't really have a high income. Maybe they worked a part-time job during the summertime, made a couple $1,000s, that's fine, right? We would work with you as your advisor to kind of determine how much money they've made. Try to take out as much money out of the education assistance payments as possible so that we can get to an amount where your children are not exceeding their minimum tax amounts. So for example, anyone that's not making more than $11,500 a year, they're not really paying any tax at all to the government, right? So we can go up to that amount from those withdrawals to take full advantage of that, and then take out all the return of payments in latter years once all the education assistance payments have been depleted. For whatever reason, if there's still money that's left over, there's different options available. We can withdraw for non-education purposes. You're able to actually roll these monies into your own personal RSPs if there's still money left over once your children have finished education and all beneficiaries have passed age 21. Okay, next slide. So that brings us into this point here. So if your child does not go into higher education, these are the options that you have available. So there's two types of plans you can set up with an RESP. You can set up an individual plan or a family plan. 99% of the time, I would highly recommend setting up a family plan. A family plan gives you that flexibility to have multiple beneficiaries on one RESP. So if you have 2 or 3 children, you can put all 2 or 3 children on one family plan. And from that family plan, you can make individual contributions towards each beneficiary. However, because all of their education will look different, their time frames might look different, you don't know how much money you'll need for each child. You have that flexibility to kind of move money around to fund each child differently. And this will make sure that you really kind of use up the full RESP between all of your children. But for whatever reason, if you still haven't used up all the money and there's money left over, like I mentioned earlier, you do have those other options available where you can withdraw money for non-education purposes. If there's any education assistance payments on it, you pay a tax and a penalty. Or you can also roll the funds over into your own personal RSPs without having any kind of significant tax issues. I mean, eventually it would be taxed, but it's a way of kind of deferring that to a future year. Okay, so we do have additional resources available, so you can take down this website, but we can also pass it along as well. And if you have any questions in regards to RESPs specifically, or RSPs, or anything else investment related, my email address is also provided. But I think we'll be providing a QR code in the following slide that you can also scan into your phone for reaching out if you have any questions in regards to RESPs, RSPs, or anything else investment related, and taking advantage of each account and facility based on your own personal situation. Just keep in mind that there is not one standard path that really everyone should be taking. It's all going to vary and depend on each individual circumstance. So that's the most important thing to remember. Farah, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, Kieran. Yes, thank you so much. And such great information that was shared. And I feel like every time we have an event like this, there's always something that, you didn't realize, and you're always learning something every time we have one of these. I think I really liked what you said. Everyone's path is really not the same. Everyone's situation is different. And really, I think the best thing to do is book an appointment, right? To sit down and kind of go through, what are some possibilities, right, for that individual. I think a lot of times people might feel like they aren't able to invest, right? I don't know where I'm going to find the money. But if we really kind of sit down and look at our budget, right, and where money's going, it is possible, to find ways in there. And especially, these are our investments for our future, for our retirement, for our education, for our kids. So, it's such an important investment, for our future. So thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate everything that you've given us today. We do have a question and answer box. If anyone would like to enter any questions, you're more than welcome to put them in there, or, send them out. Ria or Felipe, I'm not sure if any questions were sent to you, but please feel free to jump in and let us know what they are.
Yes, I have gotten some questions just sent to me personally, which is fine. But if you guys want to put them in the chat for all the attendees, that would be great too, because some might have a similar question that, you will cover their question as well. So I do this question here. They're asking, let me just pull it up one more time. So they're saying that, they have 2 kids. Should I open a family account or an individual one? So Kieran, they're referring to the RESP. And I guess they're asking, you know, is the family account better than individual ones? So that's a really great question, because I was actually in this predicament when my kids were born, and I did open separate accounts, but then I later learned, you know, the benefit of having the family one. So if you can elaborate and enlighten them a bit on it, that would be great, Kieran.
Yeah, for sure. So I would always say, like, you know, see, the thing is, every family dynamic is different. So I don't want to speak on the simplicity or the complications of each family. But for the most part, if things are harmonious, you know, everything is good, I would always say set up a family plan. It's probably one of the most flexible and easiest plans to work with, because you want to be able to deplete your entire RESP, right? So let me give you a scenario. You have your two children. Your older child is going to go into a program that's going to end up costing them, you know, maybe $20,000 over their course, because, you know, they've done quite well and they received lots of scholarships, worked hard during the summer, saved up their own money. But you've ended up saving about $30,000 in an RESP for them. You now have this $10,000 excess amount that you have to kind of deal with. It's not the worst thing in the world, but, you know, it's just something that you have to do additionally, right? But you might have your second child whose program is quite extensive, right? They're doing a master's, postgrad, everything else, and their program is going to end up costing about $100,000. And in their individual plan, you know, you've saved up about $50,000, right? You're still $50,000 short, but in a family plan, that extra $10,000 could have been applied towards your second child as well. That's where the flexibility comes in with the family RESP plan. There are attribution rules. So if any kind of grant or growth was associated with a certain beneficiary, when you withdraw that money under a different beneficiary, it still goes back to the originating beneficiary. But that's all more tax planning. If that's not going to materially affect one beneficiary or the other, the main point is having access to cash and depleting your RESPs towards your children's education. And it's not too late. For those of you that have already set up individual plans, you can still consolidate your individual plans into a family plan, as long as the beneficiaries on the plan are related by blood, marriage, or adoption.
Thank you so much for that, Kieran. We do have quite a few more questions, so thank you all for entering them in the chat. We really would like to hear from you, and we do welcome them. So Sandeep, I guess Kieran already answered your question, because you're asking to just elaborate on the family account, which is what we talked about. So thank you again for your questions. Can we open a RESP account online without going to the bank? So definitely, you would have to open it with an investment specialist or an advisor such as ourselves, in terms of you know, allocating the funds in the right investment. That's when we you know, we tie in Kieran. So it would be in the form of a call just like this, and we would have Kieran on the call with us, and we can go into a very thorough discussion about the right funds, and, you know, just allocate your funds that way. We can set up contribution where you can do monthly. So those are some of the options, but again, it would be, I know some people are still hesitant to go to the bank per se, and it's a matter of convenience. So we do have the added convenience of having it on WebEx like today, and it would just, we'll take care of all the account opening and everything right there and then. So I think I've covered it all. Kieran, if you want to add anything, this will.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Actually, I was going to say, you know, the technology has made it so much more convenient for us, right? Like, I can sit here with my dress shirt and have my shorts on underneath, and not that I'm doing that.
Same for me. You can rock your summer hair today, you know.
But you can, yeah, definitely as a client, you have the comfort of just kind of, you know, doing these appointments from your own home. We have the technology to screen share, complete all the account openings. So it's really nice that way, actually. And it's a more relaxed, and you can really kind of ask a lot of the questions that you have the same way you would if you went into the branch.
Nice. Thank you. Felipe, did I miss any other questions there? Do you want to go through them?
There's a few questions here right now. Yes, really interesting ones as well. still regarding RESPs, one that says, what's the difference between a company's pension plan and RRSP? Which one is better to focus on in terms of where you contribute to the most?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Definitely, you need to integrate both into your overall financial plan. So with a company pension, there's different types of company pensions. You could have a defined contribution plan like we mentioned on the call. You could have a group RRSP program. Sometimes employers match, sometimes they don't, okay? It's all about kind of what do I get as an individual when I do something or participate in something. So whenever I do anything, I'm trying to squeeze out the maximum optimal benefit from the organization or the institution, whether it's my workplace or the government. So if the government is offering me 20% every year for my child's RESP, I want that 20%. So the question is, what do I need to do to get that 20%? If my company is matching me up to 3% of my pay, up to a maximum of, let's say, $5,000 per year, I want to get that at $5,000. So what do I need to do to get that $5,000? Right? This is really the approach that everyone should be having in taking full advantage of the programs that are offered to them. If there's no benefit of what's being offered to you, for example, if a company is offering you the ability to put money into an RSP, but they're not matching you, then really you can make that determination of, do you have the financial discipline to monitor and set up your own RSPs? Or would you rather have that just automatically come off of payroll deduction? So you don't have to think about it. Whatever hits your account, that's what you're working with. So again, going back to each individual circumstance, it's about kind of marrying, everything together so that you make sure that you're taking full advantage of it. You could have about $5,000 a year as your budget that you want to put towards retirement every year, right? If you want to put, let's say, $3,000 through a company because that's the amount that's going to get you whatever the company's giving you, you still have a $2,000 extra amount that you have to put somewhere. That can be put into a personal RSP, just as one example.
That's great. No, that's really awesome, actually. And I know a lot of companies have different investment options as well. So it's always good to ask those questions, especially when to your employer, to find out how you can benefit from each one. So we have, I don't know if we answered this one already, but it says, is it necessary to open RESP through bank or any other platform if it's also available?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you have RESP options available through multiple platforms. So if you're somebody who's more like a self-directed investor and would rather kind of have a more hands-on approach, you can definitely open it through some type of a self-directed channel. So we do have RBC Direct Investing. There's other companies as well. But yeah, the benefit of doing it through a branch is that you kind of get that access to the advisor component, which we can talk more about the subtleties and the nuances that come around RESPs, right? It's not just a simple, straightforward, I want to invest my money and get the most return. It's also about, what are the cash flow implications? What are the tax implications? What is the future pros and cons of building up an RESP too much, right? It's about having all of these conversations that can really help. But I mean, of course, if you're somebody that likes to do a lot of research, get educated, and has a good understanding of this, there's lots of different platforms that are available to set up your RESP as long as the institution offers it.
And I would definitely want to add on to that as well. I know, coming into the branch or speaking to an advisor like Farah himself, who's an investment specialist, what I like to call them besides just an investment retirement planner, is that I perceive you get a better understanding of what your options are, and you get guided better, and also everything's explained more in depth and in detail for a better understanding of what you're actually, investing your funds in, especially when it comes to your child's education or for your retirement. So I would definitely, that's a good way to go about it when you go into the bank. Another good question here that we have is, what is the withdrawal process if someone moved out of Canada, like after 5 to 6 years of opening an account, or if the kid wants to have education out of Canada?
Yeah, so essentially, I'll give a couple different scenarios because I'm assuming this question is asking that the entire family has moved. So nobody is a resident of Canada anymore, right? So essentially, what ends up happening is if, first of all, depending on the type of platform that you're investing with, if you're out of the country for more than 183 days, you're no longer considered a resident, right? Depending on the situation, but you need to have 183 days physical presence within the country to be considered a resident. So when you're no longer a resident, first thing that happens is that we're no longer able to kind of make any adjustments on your investments on our particular platform, because our licenses only really kind of restrict us to within Ontario, right? So really your main options would be like cash or GICs at that point. Now in regards to using those funds to fund education, generally we need a letter from the office of a registrar of an approved school. Most of the times those schools are in Canada. We have had cases where you know, people have required funding for like an international school. So we do have a list that would go through and see that that would fall under that category. If the school falls under the category, by all means, you would have full access to getting that funds for the education purpose specifically. And if, for example, whatever reason, the particular international school does not fall under the category, you can still withdraw the money, but you're taking it now as a non-education withdrawal. That would then force a clawback of grants. There would be penalties and tax implications on the growth component. It can get quite complicated that way. So that's a really good question, because it's a serious consideration to think about, that if you're not thinking of staying in the country for the long term, then really is an RESP worth the trouble of setting up, because it can be complicated in the future, right? You want to always kind of take the path of least resistance. You might give up some benefits along the way, but you know, if it causes some problems, then it wasn't really worth it from the beginning anyway, right?
Definitely, definitely. I have another great question here, actually. They're asking, if you make a maximum contribution on your RSPs, is there any other way of investing for your retirement besides your RSPs?
Sorry, the last part cut out again. Can you just repeat that last part?
Yeah, sorry. If you like maxed out, like if you do maximum contribution on your RRSPs, is there other investment options to continue contributing towards like a retirement, like other investment options, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so for example, you know, if you're maxing out on your RSPs, either through payroll deductions, company pensions, or your own personal RSPs, and you still want to put money towards retirement, maybe the next option you can look at is tax-free savings account, for example, right? So tax-free savings account is a multifunctional account. You can use it for pretty much any purpose you want, but definitely it's a fantastic non-taxable source of income that you can help supplement your overall retirement income, right? Because pensions are taxable, RSP withdrawals or RIF payments, which is what RSPs turn into when you're 71, they're all taxable, right? But any withdrawals made out of a tax-free savings account, these are not taxable. You won't get any tax benefit by putting money into a TFSA, but anything that grows within that tax-free, of course, like the title says, you don't pay any tax on it, right? So that's the greatest benefit. And then if you maxed out even your tax-free savings account, then you would look at setting up just a regular investment account, or what we call a non-registered account, which would have tax implications every year, but it's just a way for you to put additional savings aside, right? But remember, again, with the RSP, most people should not be maxing it out, right? Just because you have the room available, it doesn't mean you want to take full advantage of that room. There's one other question that I noticed here that I'll just kind of answer that as well at the same time, right? So they asked, what if you don't have any income from prior year to determine this year's contribution? So if you don't have any income from a previous year, then yes, your RSP room would not grow at all. Like it would still be zero if it was zero before, right? But remember that RSP room banks up every year, right? So if you don't take full advantage of 1 year's room, it doesn't mean it's gone forever. It adds to a total amount that will continue to accumulate into future years. So for example, if I make $50,000 a year, going back to that example, and I'm eligible for 18% of that amount to grow my RSP room, that's $9,000 that gets banked up. If I'm making $50,000 for the next 10 years, by the end of 10 years, if I have not made any RSP contributions, I now have an RSP contribution room of $90,000, right? So I want to basically put enough money into my RSPs to lower myself into a tax bracket where I want to be at and I'm comfortable. But if I see that there's potential for me in my career to increase my income up to $100,000, I would rather save that RSP contribution room for those years when I'm making $100,000, because the tax refund that I'm going to be receiving back is going to be far more effective than if I was making $50,000, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. And thanks for sharing that. That's some great advice that we could all use, especially, seeing that we have different options to invest in. And thank you for bringing up the tax-free savings account, because I think that's a good way to invest also. And again, it's different options that you have available here at the bank, right? Well, we basically wrapped up. We're going to wrap it up now. If everyone who's still here, please feel free to scan this QR code. This QR code is for Karan's personal contact. You'll get his email as well as his phone number there as well. Also take the time. Also, I don't know, Karan, if you'd like to also put your email in the chat box there, just in case someone doesn't have their phone, or if they're using their phone to actually tune into what we're talking about right now.
Sure.
And if I don't mind showing our QR code, if anyone wants to get in contact with us as well, feel free to scan the QR code, and also send us an email if you have any questions. Feel free to contact us if you want to take anything offline, or if you want to put you in contact with Karan as well. Just let us know. Feel free to grab our contact information. I don't know if we would like to also provide her email information as well there. You can also connect to us through LinkedIn if you'd like it to as well. We're always acting on LinkedIn as well if you have any questions.